My name is Rick and I'm a Global Support Engineer at Dell. In this video, we are going to go over deploying templates as they pertain to a Smart Fabric deployment. If you would like to see how to create a template, you can refer to our general overview of templates video. With a Smart Fabric deployment, you must utilize templates in order to assign the necessary networks or VLANs to the corresponding switch ports of your compute network ports. If you would like to know how to create VLANs in Open Manage Enterprise Modular, you can refer to our how-to video on how to configure them. Once you have a template created from either a source device in the environment or from a server profile export, you will need to edit it and add the networks that you would like for those hosts. I'd like to make a small note here that when adding your networks to the template, these will apply to all hosts that the template is utilized on. In order to add networks, we're going to need to go to configuration and then templates, which we are already sitting on here. Once you're there, you're going to need to select the template that you want to edit. This is as simple as putting a check mark in the template that you're going to make changes to. In this case, we're going to utilize MX740C example template. Once you have that selected, you're going to choose Edit Network. If you're planning to use an identity pool for physical addresses to be replaced via virtual addresses for your hosts, you'll need to select it here. If you have a predefined identity pool once it's created, you should see it in the dropdown here. In this case, we are not going to utilize virtual identities. Some servers utilize a technology called network partitioning. These bandwidth settings are applicable whenever you have those partitions enabled. You can utilize them to split your physical port bandwidth weights into the multiple virtual ports. When you set up your maximum bandwidth, they must correlate to each individual port. Once you've made any necessary changes here, you can select Next. And this will show you where we can add our VLANs to our individual partitions. You can select teaming here if you're going to utilize it. Let's see here, you should have several options here. In this case, we have no teaming, LACP, or other. If you utilize no teaming, this will mean that there is no teaming or redundancy set up for the NICs on the host. If you utilize LACP, this is Link Aggregation Control Protocol, and this will make the switch aware that the port needs to have an LACP configured to actively participate in the team negotiation. If you utilize other, this will refer to switch unaware teaming on the host. Please note, if you are using NIC partitioning, then switch dependent teaming is not supported. Once you've made your decision for teaming, your next option will be to actually apply the VLANs that you would like to have. As you're setting up your VLANs, excuse me, you'll have the option to select one untagged VLAN. In this case, our untagged VLAN, we are going to set as VLAN 1 for all ports. Once you have all of your untagged networks selected, you can then go back in and select your additional networks that you would like to utilize. In this case, we are going to utilize FCOE, AppV, and management traffic. We're going to apply these same 3 VLANs to all 4 ports. Now, once we've applied our VLANs, we're going to click Finish. Once your network settings have been applied and all of your VLANs are added, you then are going to need to deploy the template. The template that we just edited should still be selected, and then we'll just simply click the Deploy Template option. When you're deploying a template, please be aware that if it has any storage or BIOS configuration, then it could be data destructive, as it will push those changes at the same time that it applies the VLANs for Smart Fabric. Once you initially pull up the window for the deployment, you're going to see that you have two options to choose from. We can attach to slots or deploy to devices. For slot assignments, it does just what the name says. You apply the template to the slot, and it will apply the profile to any device that is inserted into that slot and keep it on it. That means if you move a sled to a new slot, it will pick up and apply the template applied to that slot. Deploy to devices will do just what the name says. It'll apply the templates to the device itself, meaning that once applied, the template will follow the host and not stay on the slot. Once you choose one of these two options, you will need to select the slots of devices you would like to add the template to. In our case here, I'm going to choose assign or attach to slots. As you see, a little button pops up where we make our selection. So I'm going to select an empty slot in this case. We will go with slot 3. Once you've made the selection for your slot, click Finish. Just to note, if a slot already has a template applied, that option will be grayed out for that slot. You will not be able to select it. Some configuration changes to your network will require a reboot, like changes to BIOS or changes to network partitioning. Sometimes when a reboot is required, a graceful shutdown cannot be performed. At the bottom here, you have an option to not forcefully shut down the hosts in the case a graceful shutdown fails. This will give you the opportunity to go in and manually put your host into maintenance mode, shut down VMs or other required maintenance tasks before you shut it down from the operating system. Once you've made your selections, go ahead and click Finish. As you'll note, once it's completed, you should be able to see that the job has been completed successfully. So we will go to our monitor, jobs, and then check for device configuration of the deployment. And you can see here that it is completed. If you'd like to know how the application went, you can simply go into the job, select View Details, and then select View Details, and you can see the messages as it runs through the task. As you can see here, we have successfully assigned the template. In OpenManage Modular 1.3.0.00, when you assign a template, it will automatically create and assign a profile correlation. In this case, the profile that it is created and assigned is MX740C example template 00001 to target sled 3, which is slot 3. And this concludes the process for deploying templates for network application and for Smart Fabric.